One. Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So, welcome to another episode of the Engineering Leaders podcast series, where we are bringing together engineering leaders from various fields to pick their brains and experiences on how a young, aspiring engineer can succeed and have an exciting career ahead of them. So, today we have a really big guest on our podcast today, and I'm really excited to have Juan on the podcast today. Juan is currently the CIO and I believe the managing director at Aventra Group Singapore, which is an end-to-end boutique IT solutions company that specializes in helping maritime leaders and companies adopt digital transformations in their business to help customers have a competitive advantage through data-driven decision making and predictive analysis. So Juan is an established top engineering leader with over 10 years of experience working in multi-million dollar projects with global institutions in the maritime industry and really helping them streamline process, boost productivity, and reduce costs. So interesting fact about Juan is that he's also a digital top leader in the maritime and agribusiness space. So Juan, frequently writes in I believe his monthly newsletter on LinkedIn, the Maritime Digital Thoughts, and he expressed his opinions on digital transformation in maritime. So, my explanation or my description of it is very long, but well, without further ado, let's welcome Juan here on this show. Welcome Juan. Glad to have you on this next episode.
Thank you very much, Kenny. Very kind with all the the intro. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, so let's kick things off with some exciting stuff. So Juan, could you share a little bit about yourself, with everyone, what you're currently doing, and perhaps a little bit more about Aventra Group, that the company that you are currently leading?
Yep. So let's start with Aventra. So Aventra, as you rightly mentioned, is an IT company that is end-to-end, but we also consider ourselves as a boutique for the maritime industry. So we not only bring the IT component, we also bring the subject matter expertise of maritime, right? So we combine these two, and this is the value that we bring to the industry. That many players they really acknowledge the value that we have, and because they feel we can speak their language, that we can understand their needs, and of course that we are going to deliver the IT solution for them. So currently, I'm the managing director for a Singapore entity, where basically I'm leading the maritime vertical globally to bring the solutions to the maritime industry. So very actively in Singapore now, doing business development in Europe and Middle East, and trying to establish our services in the maritime industry. I'm also the Chief Innovation Officer for the group. This is CIO, it's not Chief Information Officer, but Chief Innovation Officer for Aventra Group. And basically, I'm leading the whole innovation, both outside and inside the company. And part of it, we are developing a portfolio of digital products for the maritime industry.
Awesome. So I actually read a little bit about Venture Group, and I found it very interesting. Previously I always thought that maritime industry is more like brick and mortar, more backdated. But I never knew that actually a lot of digital innovations could be actually employed in even the maritime industry to optimize supply chain and crew management and amongst any other operations lah. So very excited to hear your insights later. So Juan, I saw that you actually used to study and work in Colombia previously. Am I right to say that?
Yes, you're correct.
And of course, your humble roots actually started as an engineer in biotech, working your way up the ranks and eventually, becoming the CIO of a venture group. So, could you share a little bit more about your story and walk us through the journey of how you actually first started, in engineering and eventually where you are right now?
Okay, yes. Well, as you mentioned, I studied in Colombia. That is because I'm originally from Colombia. I'm Latino by origin. And first, in my background, right? My studies. First, I took biological science, then I did my engineering. So basically on process engineering. So I joined biotech just even before graduation. They sent me to live for 6 months in Honduras. Basically, I started as an R&D engineer. Then I was moved back to my hometown in Cali, Colombia, and I worked there for until I moved here until I moved to Asia. So I work as a process engineer, and then after that, I was leading the engineering practice for Southeast Asia. Was doing different projects in biotech in Colombia. Then I had the opportunity to move to Malaysia, especially to Kuala Lumpur, where I continued doing project management, but also optimizing part of the civil works jobs that were done at the company back then. So that was in 2016, 2018. I decided to move to Singapore, and I joined the fantastic world of the maritime industry, basically as a global IT project manager. And the reason why I decided to make the shift, and also why they were interested in me, is because maritime is an industry that is very, I would say, very tangible, right? Very you need to touch, right? And I have been a project manager for many years, and most of my experience was on the field, civil works, building stuff. So that was something that this company, they wanted, right, to have, because I needed to visit the vessels and to have a real context of what is working on board a vessel. So I think that was what made the opportunity a win-win for both parties. And then from there, I fell in love with the industry and also with the technologies that can transform and are transforming right now the industry.
Awesome. So actually, when you mentioned about maritime, right? I was like thinking Singapore is, one of the central hubs, like, especially in the maritime industry, even among Southeast Asia. So, is there anything that's interesting about Singapore's maritime space or industry that you found that was a good opportunity here?
Yeah, well, I didn't know that back then, but Singapore is very, very exciting when it comes to maritime. So first of all, the number of ports of calls that we have in Singapore is huge. So we can say that we are the busiest port in the world. Right now is just the competition number one and two is between Singapore and Shanghai, right? But the global ecosystem that we have in Singapore is amazing. So the opportunity, the exposure that we have to just visit a vessel, all the technical infrastructure that Singapore has built to render service to the vessels is also a great opportunity. And not only that, is that many global companies from their headquarters, they also have a very important operation office in Singapore. What makes that many of the international shipping companies are connected in Singapore, although they have different headquarter locations in different cities or different countries. And on top of that, I think that Singapore through MPA, Maritime Port Authority, they also put a lot of emphasis on developing and evolving maritime with all the different technologies, digital solutions, and how to do the digital transformation. And that creates a fantastic environment to thrive and to prosper as part of the industry.
Awesome. Yeah. So Juan, you actually worked at Biotech International previously as an engineer, before actually shifting over to the maritime industry. What were some of the memorable experience working there? I believe that is where you actually formed your foundation, or that first career break. Because you
Yes.
worked there for quite a while. Yeah. So what were some of the memorable experiences like working there?
Yeah, I would say that I was working before for the renewable energy industry. So basically building grain power plants. right? But usually I had to travel to remote places, both in Latin America and in Asia. So one thing that I keep close to my heart and very good memories is that I had the opportunity to share with different ranks and different levels. So, meeting and presenting CEOs, talking to senior managers, but also talking with the laborers, just people who were either constructing the plant or operating the plant. And that is also, I would say, a skill, right? Is how to learn to communicate at different levels in different, not only languages like English, Bahasa, or Spanish, but also what kind of language I have to use to communicate at different levels. So I think that that is of my most fond memories, is that I had the opportunity to travel the world and also to meet people from different parts of life, and getting to know different realities and situations in life.
Awesome. Actually, I have a few friends, who also travel overseas, and they're telling me that like it's a very different world out there. When you are working in Singapore, you can only see the culture in one lens, but actually exploring outside really opens your mind up to many different like culture. So actually, I spoken to one engineering leader who came from India. So he actually worked in Hong Kong for quite a while. So he was telling me that like in Hong Kong, right, the people there really value time like a sacred spirit lah. In a way that if you are 1 minute late, it's considered one of the highest form of disrespect, which was quite shocking to me because sometimes Singaporeans we take time for granted. Sometimes we come 1, 2, or even 10 minutes late. Yeah, but I think culture really does. I mean, like it's very interesting to find like different cultures
That
elsewhere.
is true. That is true.
Yeah.
And you need to learn how to manage time in different contexts. Then you can be disrespectful if you come late, but also you can be disrespectful if you are very punctual and just pushing people to be on time.
Oh, well, I
Yeah.
didn't know that this was a thing. So yeah, but yeah, you're right lah. We all have like to learn about the cultures and stuff. So yeah, so as I believe you're working up your way from becoming a senior engineer and eventually CIO. I believe there will have been certain challenges and growth opportunities along the way. So could you share with the audiences, what did that journey look like for you? And what were some of the biggest lessons you learned along the way to continuously grow yourself to receive great career opportunities?
Okay, very good. I'm a bit philosophical in that respect. I prefer always to reflect on what those lessons brought to me, right, and how I can share those. So I would say that the first one that I have to share from my past experience and what have allowed me to move up, right, is I always tell people, don't compete, but lead. In many contexts, people they have asked me many times, why are you not, just putting your name in your work, or why are you not saying that this is your work, right? So what I tell people is, I don't need to put my name in my work. Anyone who works closely with me, they can tell my work from afar, because my work comes with my mark. Is I say it's an extension of myself. So anyone who knows me a little bit better, they can tell if that work belongs to Juan or not, right? And we every time that we are in a context of work, right? Whenever we want to compete, we are just leveling ourselves down, because you're trying to compete on something that everybody has. But the reality is that if you lead, if you become yourself, you know what you bring to the table, you know your value, and you lead with what you have, no one can beat you, because no one can be yourself, right? You are a unique individual, right? And nobody can take that away from you. I would say that that can be number one. Number two, and I have always practiced this, is, and I've learned it also from different mentors and coaches, is work harder on myself than on my job, right? So people, they try always to work very hard, putting the hours. But the reality is that if we work hard or long hours, but we continue doing exactly the same, we are not going to improve. Then we need to work harder on us so that in the time that we're putting in for whatever work we're doing, we are rendering more value, right? Also is that I have always seen any work that I do or any job as a platform. It's a lab. For me, it's a lab. I operate with a scientific approach in my mind. So to me, I have the opportunity not only to render what I'm expected to deliver, but also see how I can change things, right? And so far, I haven't met a boss or manager that is not willing to sponsor my initiatives if those initiatives are of relatively low cost, big impact, right? And of course, after I have delivered my assignments, right? Nobody will oppose you to do more than you are requested to do, right? But you have to see at that work that you have a platform, an opportunity to do something that you want to bring, even though nobody is asking you for that. I would say number 4, and also a little bit contrarian to what many people suggest, especially young people. I never say people do what you love. That is, I would say, a halfway true advice. You have to learn to love what you do, because you can be very fortunate and find what you love and then you do it. But that is not the reality for many people, especially living in third world countries or developing countries. So we need to be able to develop the capacity to learn to love what we do. Either if we get something that we love or we don't love, we will learn to love it and we will excel in what we do. And the last one is that you never play alone or never be alone in your career. So when people ask me, I always tell people, I'm never alone. I'm always in the company of a good book. That means that all the time I'm reading, and every time I have a chance, then I just open my books and I'm reading, I'm growing, I'm learning. So that is, I would say, the key lessons that are universal, anybody can apply, and those have contributed a lot to my own development.
Right. Wow, those wow, actually, I do resonate with a lot of what you have said. Especially with regards to the idea, the contrarian thought, like, do what you love rather than, I mean, like, don't do what you love rather than love. I mean, rather learn to love what you do. So I think I read this book somewhere. It was called So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. So, he actually expressed this idea as, don't follow your passion. It was a contrarian thought, but I realized, right, a lot of times, sometimes matching our passion to the work that we do is not exactly something that's the most productive. Sometimes you can even fall out of love because you have to do this for the living. But developing skills and of course developing that competency eventually gives you a lot of pride and also helps to build that passion. So I completely agree with what you have mentioned.
You
So,
can be compassionate of what you do. Yeah, exactly.
exactly. Yeah. So, you actually mentioned one point, which I would like to explore a little bit deeper. So you mentioned that your work is your own lab and platform, that you will go beyond and above, what is actually given to you, like as a role, and you would like, I mean, like, you also create a vision, okay, of how things should be done. So could you share with us maybe in just one very simple work context that this can be applied?
Yeah. Okay. For instance, I try to grow in different aspects, right? But let's say that I have been appointed to do a new job, right? And I know what are the expectations. I have to do maybe a follow-up. I need to manage certain expectations and I need to deliver it, right? But I never stop at that, right? I start pushing the boundaries. So what are the best practices? Who are the people who have excelled in different industries, right? So I also try to find similar or sister or, even far industries, right? And to understand what people are doing in different contexts and how I can make an experiment in my own context. It will never go exactly as they're doing in the other way because the contexts are different, right? So this is where you have to do an experiment. You have to try, you have to test, and for sure you will make mistakes, but you need to be, before you start, you know that you're going to have some failures, to have some mistakes, then you are not afraid to make mistakes because you know for sure that that will happen. But you still just go, you do it, and you implement it. Just to give you an example, I had the opportunity to reduce a lead time for the engineering practice from 180 days to 60 days, right? By combining two things. I implemented a technology tool, and second, I was reading a concept from one of the theories of constraints in one of the novel books that I was reading. So I implemented in my own context. I added a tool. I misestimate some of the hours at the beginning. With time, I fine tune it. But then in the end, the first trial, I have an improvement of 50%. But after the different iterations from 180 days, I made it into 60 days. But it's just because I was asked to manage what it was. But I was not happy just doing exactly what I was asked for. So I had to bring my own self and to put my own mark and my own brand to it.
Okay, so Juan, you mentioned that after biotech you actually moved into the maritime industry. So I was just curious, what actually made you so passionate about this field in particular?
Yep. To my shift to the maritime industry, right? It wasn't that I would say difficult for me. I have a natural kind of inclination for things that go either through sea or at sea, right? But I would say that the main thing that drew me, that attracted me, was the significance of the or relevance of the industry, right? For those who are not aware, around easy number to remember, 90% of all the goods in the world are transported by sea, right? And those are carried in vessels. So it's an industry with a lot of relevance, international relevance, and many things, many stories, many anecdotes just happen within the industry because of a global context. That was number one. That helped me to transition, but also what made me become passionate and love what I do is also that sense of camaraderie that there is in the industry that to be honest, I haven't found anywhere else. I have good friends in different parts of the world and also in different industries, but that sense of belonging that there is in the industry is something really amazing.
Awesome. So, now we'll move on to talking a little bit about the maritime industry that you're in, and just find out what are some of the changes and evolutions that has happened within that space. So, Juan, as an engineering leader in the maritime industry, with experience in data orchestration, digital fleet management, advanced analytics, and AI, machine learning, amongst many other technologies, I believe you have actually seen how the maritime industry has changed and evolved over the years. So I was just curious, what are some of the biggest disruptors and potential problems that maritime leaders should be aware of? That you have spoken quite extensively in your newsletters.
Yeah, I think that the biggest disruptor, and I hope that most people know this already in the maritime, the biggest disruption is going to be connectivity on board. Because you can call it a remote industry. So ships are moving all over the place in the oceans. So internet comes via satellite connectivity, right? So through the years, we have we have had very limited access to internet, bandwidth very, very small. You can compare the setup, the network that you have on board a vessel, pretty much with maybe what we had in the 2000s, right? Both connectivity, IT setup, very, very, very much like what we had in the 2000s. So we can say that we are lagging 23 years behind. However, connectivity is moving very fast, especially now with the launch of Starlink for the maritime industry, right? Or I assume many of the audience know that Starlink is a company of Elon Musk. So now they're bringing this low Earth orbit satellite. So they have launched a big constellation of satellites. So they have currently a regional coverage. If not mistaken, they have America, Europe, the Philippines, and Australia. But within a year, they will be able to cover the whole globe, right? So that is going to be a game changer for the industry because we are going to enjoy connectivity on board, maybe just as good as we have at the office, and that will create lots of opportunities to have connected vessels, and that will change definitely the industry. With connectivity comes the problem, or sometimes the threat, and that threat is cybersecurity. Many people, of course, with an old-fashioned mentality, they say, why I want to connect my vessel if I'm going to have a cybersecurity issue? It's better to have it, offline. Yeah, that is, the most secure way to not get hacked is you just be offline from internet. But that is not a solution for the modern world. We have to be connected, but we have to make sure that our assets are secured. Nobody can claim that infrastructure or setup is 100% secure, but we can do our best to make sure that all the best practices are put in place to avoid an unnecessary attack. So I would say the opportunity or the game-changing technology will be connectivity, especially LEO, low Earth orbit satellite. The big challenge will be cybersecurity.
And how should actually maritime leaders and institutions, knowing that this change is happening, how can they actually better prepare themselves in the next decade to continue to remain relevant and highly valued in the space?
Yeah. I think that, maritime careers, you have people who they start from the beginning at the office. We call it shore, but some people they go to the sea and after some years they go back to, well, not go back, they come to the office, right? But for most people, I think that the what is going to keep the talents and the universities and the institution relevant are for them to start emphasizing or putting more emphasis into digital data, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. Some people, some friends, they ask me, hey, should I start, studying technology? What kind of technology, right? And I always provide the same advice. If you are maybe 10 years just before you reach the retirement age, you shouldn't worry too much. Of course, nobody is exempt to get restructure, right? But if the person has a good dominion of the area, shouldn't be an issue, right? However, anyone with a landscape of more than 10 years should be already preparing to be part of the digital transformation in the industry. What kind of technology? Difficult to say. I think that people need to understand what technology can do to transform the industry and maybe pick something that is of interest and maybe something that can render more benefit for the industry and take it from there. We can't only pick one technology and stick to it because we don't know how things are going to unfold.
I see. So, then in that, I believe, the maritime leaders should prepare themselves for the next decade. And of course, there are big changes for it. But I understand, in your newsletter, you also broadly mentioned that a lot of these maritime leaders, they are not very clear on how to actually take that first step, which is where your company, Ventura, that you're working at now, helps to actually bridge that gap. So I was just curious, how does Ventura Group actually help these maritime leaders and institutions tackle these changes when it comes to the industry landscape changes with the maritime industry?
Yeah, it has been also an evolution, right? So the business and also our value proposition keeps improving and evolving. So we started as an IT company building complex engineering solutions, both for software development, for data orchestration, right? But very quickly, we noticed and we understood that many clients were not ready for that, were not prepared. So we created also a consultancy side of the business. And we have two types of consulting. We do technology and business consulting. So let's start with technology that maybe is easier to understand. So this is when our customers, they know where they want to go, right? But they have no idea of the technical debt that they have accumulated through the years. So we just discussed what are their plans for digital transformation, and we do a deep dive on whatever technology they have. We do kind of an X-ray. We present a report and also a transformational gap plan, right? Creating all the different projects that they need in order to revamp the current structure or infrastructure and reach that position. The second example is the business consulting. This is where we help companies to understand how they can transform in digitally, right? Transform digitally. So we help them to develop a digital transformation journey, a digital roadmap, a data strategy, and how this is going to transform their business as usual. So this is, there are customers in different stages of the journey. So we try as much as we can to help those customers in the different stages where they are.
All right. So, let's talk a little bit about, your leadership journey and of course, you running Aventura Group. So as the CIO and Managing Director of Aventura Group, I believe that you had also many experience actually working in senior management role in your previous few companies. And I believe you are actually a huge advocate for high performing teams to drive positive business outcomes. So, could you share with the audiences, what a high performing team actually looks like to you, and share some of the examples that you have seen so far?
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. I think if you ask me how a high performing team look like, so to me it resembles more of a family than a team, right? And the reason for this is because people move from personal assignments to team's mission, right? When a team understands the mission that they have collectively, you don't have all these maybe hidden agendas, personal interest. Everybody is going towards the same goal. So I would say when you can witness, when you can spot a performing team, they operate more as you can call it a family, a tribe, right? But they have a collective goal together. That is, I would say, the main difference between high performing and non-high performing and non-performing teams. Some of the examples, or maybe better put, some of the key components or advices, right, that I can share for the audience, and I have had the opportunity to build a couple of high performing teams, right, is that we need to understand that high performance is not about having smart people. Actually, Smart people, they can turn a team into a very chaotic environment very quickly. And the reason is because high performance is not about IQ and is not only about EQ, right? I think it's a combination of three things for me. So number one is having a clear vision. Number two is character. And for character is both exhibiting character and demanding character. If you don't exhibit character, you cannot demand. But if you don't demand character, team will not perform. And the third one is taking care for one another. You know, people are usually not used to look after the needs of the other. The only thing that matters is to deliver the outcome. But as I mentioned, a high-performing team looks more like a family. So we are taking care from one another, right? You know, very simple things. I would say vision, character, taking care. Very simple. However, and that is also to my surprise, you find very few high-performing teams in different workplaces, and I have always asked myself why. And I think that one of the reasons is because, you know, not everybody has vision, right? Although it can be learned, but it takes time to train your imagination, but to train it into something that is tangible and that will bring the you know, potential outcomes for the business, right? Not everybody or very few people, they have had the opportunity to have a role model in life, right? Someone who can teach them what is a moral character. So very difficult to find if you haven't had one. And the third one is because we humans, we are naturally or intrinsically more self-centered than, you know, people-centered, right? So I would say that what is difficult in order to build this is that it's difficult to find the combination of the three: vision, character, and taking care of people.
Yeah, so the great leadership lessons that you have put forth, and actually it's a good reminder. I think one of the lessons that you have mentioned is about the team is like a family. Sometimes a lot of times I've noticed in big organizations as well, people are always looking for like a boss employee kind of like relationship, so it's more transactional. But a leader is really the one that is standing beside you and working through the problems together with you also.
Right.
Yeah, so thanks a lot for the reminder of how high performing teams should look like. So I'm just curious, Juan, I believe because the work that you're doing at Ventra is something that's very big, and you have a big vision for the company as well. So how do you empower your team to really work very hard to drive positive outcomes, while at the same time also maintaining a high morale and like low loyalty to the company and its vision?
Okay. To me, it comes first from putting the care and intention for the person, right? I'm not afraid of people growing. Actually, I'm of the belief that if people grow, they will render more value to the company and to the team, right? And if I'm afraid that they're growing or they are outgrowing me, is because I'm not growing, right? Then how can I be their leader, right? If they are outgrown me, then they should be able to lead me, right? So I would say all relies on that, right? Is growth. If I'm growing and my people are growing, I shouldn't be afraid of anything. If I'm not growing and they're growing, of course they're going to take over, right? If I'm afraid of my position. But I'm always growing, and also I'm making the avenues and creating the platform for my people to grow. And I believe that if people grow, they will bring more value, they will render more, and the high performance will just emerge. Now, I have had many discussions with people, and people are afraid, okay, what if we train is something more informational. I prefer people that can grow, right? But if people grow and then they leave the company, what is going to happen? So to me, it's very simple. If the person finds a bigger opportunity that we can't provide, I will be happy for them. So I really care for the person, not for the transaction that we have when that person delivers a job or a report or whatever the deliverable. If I'm looking after a human being, right? If that person grows and they find a better opportunity that I can't provide at the moment, I will be more than happy. We will continue being friends, right? That is I would say, that is to lay the foundation. But before that, before we can empower people and they can start providing those high performing outcomes, so we need to build trust. And in many companies, people don't deliver more because they never have seen someone delivering with excellence, right? It sounds sad, but that is commonplace in many companies. So many people and so many companies, they only just deliver the average that they haven't seen anything else, right? So we need to build trust, and they need to see their leader, right, bringing excellence, pushing the boundaries. This is where they will see, okay, there is a new way to do it or a different way to do it. And this is where people are going to get encouraged and empowered. Nothing inspires more people to seeing their boss, daring to do difficult stuff or so-called impossible projects and achieving great results along the way. So I would say first, understanding why we want people to grow, and second, what we have to do and go ahead of them so that they can also be inspired to perform at their highest.
And Juan, could you also share with us, what are some of your personal principles and beliefs when it comes to building your own high-performing team?
Yep, that's a very good point. I'm very particular about this, and some people can, if they don't have the thick skin, they can take it not so good. But this is what I believe and how I do it, right? First of all, I always, when I'm observing a team, let's say I'm new to a team, right? I just observe, right? I want to see who are good at something, who has the good skills. That is easy to spot. But the second thing that takes a little bit longer is to spot character, and I always focus on character. If someone has a great skill but a poor character, I don't want that person in my team, right? Because skill without character cannot take you far. So I prefer someone with maybe a lower skill level, but with a high character. So I'm always looking for character. I'm very straightforward with the team. I don't like takers and I don't like slackers, right? And I'm very comfortable removing them from my team, right? Straightforward. What I always do is I try always to put the house in order. Usually when a team is not performing, but most of teams don't perform, is because there's either lack of structure, lack of discipline, lack of clarity, lack of vision. Then I just need to understand who are the individuals of the team and how the individuals, they relate as a collective, and what is missing, where are the holes of the whole thing. Then I put the house in order, right? And that is before we can even attempt to take off. So once things are in place, or along the way as well, so I consider myself a person who is also very demanding, right? People know from me that, but I measure myself with the same yardstick. So people can say, oh, I'm carrying a burden that is heavier than Juan. No, they can't say that, right? And if they say that, maybe they don't know what I'm doing, besides what they can see, right? So I'm very demanding and I expect the best from people. If I have a low expectation on you, So you better don't be in my team, right? If you are, it's because I expect highly of you, and it's not just because today you can do it, but because tomorrow you can convert into someone who can deliver more, right? But at the same time, I'm also a very fair person. I try to always be very just, and I protect my people from unfairness and injustice within the workplace. That thing that seems so basic, many leaders they overlook, they ignore. And this is what brings people, to feel that there is someone looking after them, right? So they say, okay, there is someone looking after me, taking care of me, then I'm now more susceptible to receive his demands, right? And once they always resist at the beginning because they believe that if they just continue the way they're doing, they are going to reach high performance. That is false. You never achieve high performance if you were not performing, right? You have to change. Then, but when people they start seeing the changes, right? They start accepting the demands until they realize themselves that they can deliver and render more of what they thought they could done, right? I don't convince anyone, right? They convince themselves that they are capable of doing more. And that is where, I call one of the greatest joy for me is when I see someone from the team emerging to a higher level. That is to me, that is Christmas, that brings me a lot of joy and satisfaction.
Awesome. I believe the people that is under you would be very happy to know that as well. And I'm glad that you had that leadership quality to bring your organization to the top. And I have no doubt that Aventura Group will do great things, in the future. Yeah, so really excited for that. And at the same time, right, I'm just curious as well, because I believe a lot of young engineers are looking to create more opportunities for themselves to move up leadership positions. So, do you have any advice for them in that matter?
Oh, yeah. Well, I can share what I have done, right? And it's not that I've done it perfectly, but there are things that have helped me, right? First is to change that wrong concept or mindset that people believe that just reaching a leadership position is a matter of time or is a matter of stepping stones. It never worked that way because there is a difference in what you can achieve in the same amount of time, right? So someone can do 10 projects in 1 year, whereas a different person can achieve only one. So the leadership opportunities will go for the person who achieved 10. And it's not about, wearing yourself out, right? Many people, they overwork themselves just because they want to reach there. So there is also meaning in what we're doing, right? In order to have a balanced approach to work. But I would say that we should have, if we want to achieve those leadership positions, we should have to cultivate a desire for taking responsibility. You ask people to take responsibility, they don't want to take responsibility. But a leader, after all, is responsible, right? The how they say, the buckle ends with them, right? So if you want to rise to leadership position, just take more responsibility. If there is something that is challenging, nobody is volunteering, raise up your hand. You go for it. Take the responsibility. That will take you faster, and I would say more straight to the leadership positions, right? Always being on that constant hassle, right? To push yourself out of the boundaries and it is very uncomfortable, right? We have to do many things that we have done before, but if we don't jump and we do it, then we will never know that either that is easy or is difficult or I still need more training. This is when we do stuff that we haven't done before, is when we learn things that we didn't know we don't know, right? Things that we know we don't know, and things that we don't know we know, right? All these different this quadrant of your knowledge area, but it's only trying and attempting something new that you can learn that. If you just keep comfortable, you will never learn that, right? It's also challenging your own beliefs, your skills, capabilities, self-imposed limitation, other people's limitations that they have imposed on you, right? Just trying to understand you better. As I mentioned, I'm very demanding with myself as well, but at the same time, I would say kind with myself. I demand, I can be very pushy, but I give myself time to process all that is happening. That is, I would say, from an inside point of view for them to get there. Also, what I mentioned before, right, is how you approach work. So I never use very rarely, I don't use the word job. I don't like jobs. Jobs is what you do just to get some money. I do work, right? And so it's how people approach work, right? And is if you're always looking at your work as that lab, as that platform, and you are constantly, doing new stuff, creating, evolving, making mistakes, then this is what is going to take you to the leadership positions, because end of the day, what people want to see up there is people who have initiative. And if you don't even try in what you already have in your hands, why they are going to entrust you with more in a higher position?
Awesome. Wow. Really, really deep insights. And I'm sure a lot of people would learn a different way. I think a lot of people, tend to still view their roles as jobs. But you correctly pointed out, it's about the love of the work and really improving on the craft that we are in that really gives us that highest fulfillment as well. Okay. Yeah.
That
So
is
Juan,
correct.
yeah. So, Juan, let's wrap things up, okay, through the last segment, okay, which is really
Okay.
understanding, what are some of the best advice that you can give young engineers, okay? So I believe you're someone who had experience working, in many high performing teams, grow from a junior engineer to a CIO role. So I believe there must have been a series of right decisions you made in your career. So, I was just curious, what are some of the things you did, what are the positive traits that you embodied that actually helped you unlock a lot of career opportunities in your life so far?
Okay. From my own experience, right? I don't consider these to be the only ones, but what have helped me a lot as positive traits. First of all, I'm a person of faith, right? So, I'm always positive about challenges, right? And I always believe it's possible, right? And when you face and when you just, yeah, you go ahead or head on to a challenge and you believe it's possible, chances are you are going to make it, right? But if you don't believe it's possible, 100% you will fail, right? So I would say that is number one, right? Number two for myself is never be afraid of trade-offs, right? Work, career, business, life overall is a long-term game, right? So many people are not willing to sacrifice something in the short term for the long term, right? Those are difficult decisions, but we need to make a proper assessment, right? And to not be afraid of doing trade-offs if this is something for the long term, right? Learn how to sacrifice short-term benefits for long-term bigger benefits or even bigger joy. The third one that I also consider very particular for me, but it helped me a lot, is the fact that I got married when I was 27. That is still young. I became a father when I was 28. And, that sense of responsibility gave me a lot of advantage compared to many other people. First is because I could focus better, right? I knew what was important, right? The second was that I became more people oriented. So as I mentioned, naturally or intrinsically, we're very focused on ourselves, right? But when you have a family, when you have a wife, a kid, then you have to look for other people, right? So that is also a thing that came for me, right, through this way of life, right? And also, I would say that part of this is, to me, the greatest sense of accomplishment and satisfaction is when you can share both the struggles and the achievements with the people that you love. We always want to say, oh, we achieved this, right? But along the journeys, there are more struggles than achievements. And what really brings that satisfaction is if you have someone to share those, right? If young fellas are not married or not thinking of getting married, maybe finding very close friends, right, where they can trust and they can develop those close and intimate relationships.
So, what are some of the, common struggles or fears that you see in younger engineers over their career prospects? Because I believe you actually do run big teams and you see these young engineers come, and of course, what are your advice for this group of individuals who have these struggles or fears?
Okay. Well, first of all, I also have my fears, right? Every stage in life comes with a different set of package of fears and challenges. So we all feel fear, right? And as I always tell my son, feeling fear is not the bad thing. Getting paralyzed is the bad thing, right? So feeling fear is normal. Is just if we just stop doing nothing, well, that is the problem. But if we are just moving and trying, we're going to make it. That's part of the solution. Maybe what I've noticed with younger people, right, could be one of their fears or struggles is they think they're not good enough, or maybe they're not smart enough, or they don't think that they are going to make it into a successful career. Many young people they also feel that people are measuring all the time, right? So they put more pressure on them that they need it, right? When in reality, what is needed from them is just to deliver, an excellent product, an excellent outcome, right? And that will be enough to make a good impression. But when you are young and maybe inexperienced, you are still trying to understand what is your self-worth, what is your value. And many people struggle trying to understand if they are good enough or if they're smart enough, right?
Yeah, I actually what you said actually reminded me of how I was previously. I was someone that also was sometimes paralyzed with fear. Sometimes we are always thinking about whether we are actually good enough to start. And actually, I realized that most successful people do not wait to be 100% sure. They are just like 70% sure and like, okay, let's go. Let's go test this out and see whether it works. And if it doesn't, then
Yep.
focus on failing
Yeah,
fantastically and just enjoy the journey. I think more importantly to get moving and adjust course correct along the way, which I feel that's really important. Yeah. Okay.
that's true.
Awesome. So, I also you probably also have seen there are a group of more successful engineers who go on to have great career opportunities and some engineers that don't find as much success. So, what differentiates these two groups of people, through the career? I mean, like, because I believe you have been in the hiring positions and leading teams. So, what differentiates the more successful ones with the not so successful ones?
Yeah. I think from what I've seen, there are two types of people, right? And in the first group, very, very few people. There are people who are super talented, right? They're very good, brilliant, right? They're simply just good in what they do. So these kind of people, if they're very smart in, let's say, one field of engineering, they don't need to worry much, right? They're going to make it and people will be looking for them for new opportunities. However, I don't know, maybe 10%, 5% of people are like them, right? There are people who are just talented, right? And they will make a very successful career. But if anyone listening to the podcast is just a normal person, as most of us, or at least as me, right? What I have seen that makes the difference is that you of course you are going to be good at what you do, right? But on top of that, you need to create some, different capabilities. And I would say number one is learning to understand people needs at a higher level, right? People communicate with words, but we need to decipher what they're trying to say, what they say among lines. And not only body language, and that is to learn to translate. People say many things, but we need to be able to translate those into real desires and to prioritize what is important and what is not important, right? But also giving the impression to the person that that person is heard, right? That is going to make a difference. Second is that you know to get to know yourself very well, right? And I mentioned before, people usually, when they don't know themselves, they compete. So you are lowering yourself down. When you know yourself, you know what is your gift. I believe that everybody has a God-given gift, right? But if you don't know it, you will never find it or refine it, right? So you need to, or anyone needs to, get to know better themselves, right? And to understand where they are very good at. And if they find that, if they refine it, they will excel no matter what they're doing. And the third one is that anyone of a normal IQ, right? They have to bring their communication to a higher level. And communication is, I would say, a long life learning, and is communication in the different uh, I don't not the levels, but oral communication, speaking, writing, presentations, right? How you portray your ideas, your thoughts, and also how you process the information. I would say those three: understanding better needs of people, getting to know better yourself, and also improving your communication skills at the higher level. That will make the difference.
Awesome. Yeah, so next one, as we come to close the podcast, do you have any last advice for young engineers on what they should be doing today to create more career opportunities for themselves, especially in the maritime industry?
Okay. Yeah, this is also very from my own experience. And I think that in any industry that you go to work, being maritime or other, right? One thing that is key is to understand the drivers of economic growth within those industries, and also what are the economic cycles of that industry, right? That is very, this is something that many engineers are never taught at universities, especially technical people. They never think of that. They just, okay, this is my craft. This is what I do. That's it. But they can't see themselves on the big picture of the industry. So without that positioning on the big picture of the industry, it's very difficult to create a career, to know exactly where I'm going, where I'm positioning myself so that I can render more value to to the industry. So if we know those cycles, right, or those drivers, it will be easier for us to propose initiatives, to propose projects, to propose solutions or products that will be aligned with the drivers, and that will make not not an easier success, but a feasible success, right? Sometimes people don't find success is because they're trying to go in a way that will not bear fruit, right? So they need to understand that. And one of the advice for that is to do a lot of research, to ask many questions to people who are ahead of them in the game, and that are also not only in the engineering part, but also on the business side, and especially if they have been engineers at the beginning and they became executives or leaders and now they understand the business, those can be very good mentors for them, right? Uh, you know, part of that being asking is also, as I mentioned, right? So what are the drivers, right? What are the intentions of the stakeholders of the industry, and what are the potential challenges or threats, right? I'm also, an advocate of become a change agent, right? Just be an agent of change. So if you understand the context and you know what is going to happen, then become an agent of change. But before, most of people, they jump on it, right? Because once everybody is on it, then you are no longer an agent of change. And that will help you a lot, right? Because that will position in a different place. And also, I always recommend people to become independent thinkers, right? And don't be afraid sometimes at some subjects or even occasions to be a contrarian, because there are many noise out there and it's very, very easy to get confused with distractions. So that will be my last piece of advice.
Awesome. Well, anyways, thank you so much, Juan, for the great insights into leadership, into self-development, and also, talking a lot about Ventra and the vision ahead. Yeah, so, Juan, where can the audience actually best reach and connect with you? I believe it's on LinkedIn.
Yeah, on LinkedIn, for those who are watching on YouTube, you can find me with my name just here on my square, but also on LinkedIn for those listening from a podcast. So my full name, as easy to write down, is Juan J. Gil. You can find me as Juan J. Gil. My real name is Juan Jose Gil, but easy for everybody to pick up is Juan J. Gil. Then you can find me on LinkedIn mostly, and this is where you can reach out to stay in touch.
Awesome. Okay, so thank you, Juan, for being such an awesome guest on this show. And let's wrap up this episode. And hope whatever Juan has shared has inspired all of you.
Okay, thank you everybody. Thank you, Kenny, for this fantastic time to share the little that I have garnered through the years, and happy to be a contributor of your podcast and be of value to your audience and community.
Awesome.